green flag, and we're racing. A strong start for John Lemke. Lemke out of turn 2 in front of the 15 of John O'Neill. Up to third, Biff George in the 61. Here comes Matt Kenseth to the outside in the 8 car. Jason Schuler at 37. The sheet metal is loose on that 37. And Schuler got to back off. He's going to have to take that to the pits in the 37 car. John Lemke showing the way. John O'Neill holding on to the second spot. With George with Matt Kenseth. Kenseth closes up on George. Flying Brian Ruffner behind Kenseth. And then it's Jimmy Weber running 6th. Tony Raines running 7th in the 87. Joe Shear to 8th. The 119 of Kevin Sawinski 9th. The 61 of Tracy Schuler 10th. Matt Kenseth putting the pressure on Biff George in the 61. Kenseth down to the inside. Kenseth moves it to third. Brian Ruffner goes to work on the inside of the 61 of Biff George. Brian Ruffner trying to put it into fourth. He does. Brian Ruffner up to fourth out of turn 4. Jimmy Weber saw the door open, and Weber comes with Ruffner. Here comes Tony Raines to the inside of George. Joe Shear going to tuck up behind Raines. Joe Shear trying to move it up to 7th. George will tuck it into 8th. Kevin Sawinski now looks to the inside of George. Kevin Sawinski moves the 119 up to 8th. Tracy Schuler to the inside of Biff George. Biff George moving backwards fast. Johnny Spall, the 46, going to the outside of Tom Carlson in the 51. That battle for about the 20th spot. Johnny Spall moves the 49 car up to the 19th spot, or rather the 46. Little detection of a little smoke out of the back end of the 87 of Brian Ruffner. Little puff of smoke from Brian Ruffner in the 87 car. Steve Carlson tucks right behind the 119 of Kevin Sawinski. Steve Holzhausen on the move to the outside of the 61 of Tracy Schuler. Holzhausen moves it up to 10th in the 78 car. Holzhausen now in the top 10. Steve Carlson has caught Sawinski. inside of Sawinski. Steve Carlson up to 8th. Around Sawinski, and here comes Holzhausen. Doug Hilson rolling down the back straight. Just barely rolling down the back straight in the 72 car. Hilson will try to roll that into the pits, although it appears it might be coming to a stop over in turn 3. Yellow coming out. Yellow is out. Yellow out is Doug Hilson. The 72 coming to a stop in between 3 and 4. We're racing. Steve Holzhausen down to the inside of Steve Carlson. Steve Holzhausen up to 8th in the 78 car. Holzhausen continues his movement toward the front, running 8th now in front of the 50 of Steve Carlson. Brian Ruffner, the 87, with a peek to the inside of John O'Neill. Ruffner in turn 2, the nose inside O'Neill. Ruffner down to the inside, O'Neill holding on to 3rd. Brian pulls up side by side with O'Neill. Brian Ruffner in the 87 and John O'Neill side by side in the race for 3rd. Flying Brian up to 3rd. Tony Raines sees the opening. Raines moves to the inside. Tony Raines to 4th. O'Neill battling back on the outside. Oh, there they go. Look out. Look out. O'Neill and Raines. Around they go. Tony Raines, a 360 and back underway. And John O'Neill Jr. against the wall in turn 3. Raines with a flat right rear tire. Jason Schuler off the pace on the restart a little bit. Sawinski and Raines get around Schuler in the 37 car. Kenseth sticking right with Lemke. Lemke slides her out of turn 4. Matt wants the lead. Single file around the track. Sawinski and Raines get around the 43 of Pierre Goulet. Dudley Fleck in the 5, down to the inside of Brian Hoppy. Tony Raines around the 119 of Kevin Sawinski. Comes J.R. Roy, 24 car, putting the pressure on the 49 of Nick Carlson. That battle brewing for the 10th spot, the 49 of Carlson and the 24 of J.R. Roy. the 97 of Russ Phillips. Tony Raines and Russ Phillips. As Raines gets underway in that 87, Russ Phillips able to drive through that. All of that happening right with Kevin Sawinski right in front. And we're racing. Matt Kenseth had an idea right off the get-go here. Kenseth right on the back bumper down the back straight. Kevin Sawinski to the outside of Ron Breeze. Sawinski moves it up one notch. Johnny Spa holding to the outside with Larry Schuler down to the inside of Spa. Here comes Joe Shear to the inside of Ruffner. A little tap in the corner. Joe Shear again down to the inside of Brian Ruffner. The battle for third. Out of turn 4 they come. Ruffner holding on. Shear down to the inside. Ruffner leaving the door open for Shear. Side by side down the back straight. The battle for third. Joe Shear on the move. Jimmy Weber sees the door open. Shear to third. Weber down to the inside of Ruffner. Kevin Sawinski getting right back into it as he goes to the inside of the 30 of Larry Schuler. Sawinski moving back up in the field. Jimmy Weber trying to work the inside of the 87 of Ruffner. Weber stays on the inside, that battle for fourth. Holzhausen looking for an opening. A little tap coming out of the corner. Weber tucks back behind Ruffner. Joe Shear poised and ready. Here comes Kenseth looking down to the inside. Lemke slamming the door shut, going into the corner. Kenseth down to the inside of Lemke. Oh, look out. There goes, oh my. Look out. My goodness. Oh, my. Right above the 87 of Brian Ruffner is the 50 of Steve Carlson. The points leader caught up in that one. J.R. Rohrig over there. Jimmy Weber. Steve Holzhausen. Oh, my. It appears that something let loose in the 87 of Brian Ruffner. The fluid on the track. And Steve Carlson up and out of that 50 car looking at the damage. Kevin Sawinski to the outside of Steve Kenseth in the 98. Kevin Sawinski moves it to fifth. In the 119, John Lemke to the outside of Kenseth. Lemke will move it up to sixth. Nick Carlson down to the inside of the 5 of Dudley Fleck. A 2-car breakaway. Kevin Sawinski moves it up to that 5th spot. Going to work on the 98 of John Knaus. Steve Holzhausen, around 3 cars. He's on the move. Sawinski down to the inside of Knaus. Knaus holding him off out of the corner. Sawinski to the inside of Knaus. Kevin Sawinski to fourth. Here comes Lemke down to the inside. Knaus holding on to fifth. John Lemke down to the inside of John Knaus. The battle for fifth. We'll go to the Valvoline 3 of John Lemke back up to fifth. Steve Holzhausen down to the inside of Russ Phillips. Holzhausen continues moving. Holzhausen to the inside of Johnny Spall. Holzhausen, another notch up. Steve Holzhausen around Tom Carlson. Holzhausen up to 16th. He wants the 15th spot from J.R. Rory. Holzhausen to the outside. Holzhausen to the outside of Rourke. Holzhausen to 15th. Holzhausen to the outside of Jeff Clem. Holzhausen to 14th. Oh, there we go. Look out. Clem and Holzhausen getting together. Jeff Clem. Steve Holzhausen to the outside, and Clem connects with a 78 of Steve Holzhausen. Up out of turn 4, green flag, and we're racing. Holzhausen down to the inside of the 95 of Gary Bach. And Holzhausen moves it up. Pierre Goulet, the 43, side by side. J.R. Rory going by, as does Russ Phillips in the 97. Here comes Johnny Spraw to the outside of Goulet. The lead 5 cars spread out. Shear sticking right with Kenseth. Steve Holzhausen around the lap car of Doug Hilson. I think we got Steve Holzhausen back in 17th right now. She goes to work on Pierre Goulet. comes Shear down to the inside. Kenseth slamming the door shut. Ron Breeze, the 0-1 around the 98 of John Canals. Shear running up down to the inside again. Kenseth hugging the inside. Nothing open. The leader's going to be coming up on traffic here. Straight yellow coming out here. Pierre Goulet. And this saves Larry Middleton from going a lap down to the 14 car. They're on it in 4 out of 4. They come, green flag, and we're racing. Russ Phillips well off the pace in the 97 car. Kevin Sawinski sticking right with the 95 of Al Schill Jr. Steve Holzhausen around the 46 of Johnny Spa. J.R. Rorick down to the inside of Nick Carlson in the 49. Sawinski and Schill battling for third. Sawinski and Schill side by side. Schill pulling them down the back straight. Sawinski keeps her to the inside. Kevin Sawinski moves up to third out of turn 2. Sawinski to third. John Lipke trying to go to the inside of Schill. Watch Shear dive into 3. Joe Shear keeping the pressure on. Nose to tail out of the corner. Steve Holzhausen wanting to make it 3 wide. Shear again looking down to the inside. Holzhausen around Dudley Fleck in the 5. There comes Shear, way low on the track. Kenseth holding again. A little exchange of paint in the corner. Steve Holzhausen to the outside of J.R. Rorick. And ladies and gentlemen, Steve Holzhausen back in the top 10. Tom Carlson now on the move. Carlson starting to move up. Tom Carlson up to the 8th spot. That 37 car is a lapped car. Shear again looking. Matt DeBrat says no way. Steve Kenseth to the pits in the 98 car. Holzhausen to the inside of Knaus. Holzhausen trying to get around the yellow out here. Here comes Kenseth out of turn 4, green flag, and we're racing. Steve Holzhausen going to set up to the outside of Tom Carlson. Going to go around the outside. Carlson holding on to 8th. Holzhausen goes to the outside again. Holzhausen has to back off the lap car. That lap car of Jason Schuler to the outside of Larry Schuler. Shear down the inside. Matt holding on out of turn 2. Here's a run to the inside. He's got the nose inside. Some bumping in the corner. Oh! Nose to tail out of the corner. Shear looking down low. Nowhere to go. Oh, he's going to make room. More black on the right front of Joe Shear's 36 car. Holzhausen to the inside of Larry Schuler in the 30. Steve Holzhausen up to 7th. Shear inches away from the 8 of Kenseth. A tap going into the corner. Shear down to the inside. Kenseth slamming the door. Holzhausen around Breeze up to 6th. Here comes Shear looking to the outside. Coming up on lap traffic, Larry Middleton in the 14. Shear with a run at him again. Kenseth holding on. Joe Shear nose inside going into 3. Got the nose inside. Making a run at him. Side by side out of 4. Shear down to the inside. Joe Shear to the lead. Down the back straight. Kenseth right back with a shot. Joe by 2 car lengths. Steve Holzhausen trying to get back in the top 5. Holzhausen up to 5th. Oh my! Holzhausen closing in on 4th. Tucks it up behind Lemke. Oh, they touch in the corner. Holzhausen down to the inside. Holzhausen to 4th. Matt Kenseth sticking right there with Joe Shear. 87 and 13 to go. Coming up on the 98 of John Knaus. 90 and 10 to go for Joe Shear, Matt Kenseth, Kevin Sawinski, Steve Holzhausen, John Lemke. Shear to the outside of Knaus. Shear holding on down the back straight. Joe Shear extending it to 5 car lengths, but a lot of traffic in front. Shear coming up on the 49 of Nick Carlson. Joe Shear works around Nick Carlson. Shear with side side traffic in front. Kenseth closing in. Holzhausen closing in on Sawinski. 97 and 3 to go. Shear around the 5 of Dudley Fleck. Holzhausen to third. 98 and 2 to go. White flag out for Joe Shear, Matt Kenseth, Steve Holzhausen, Kevin Sawinski, and John Lemke, the top 5. Joe Shear, turn 4, shoots him for the checker, Joe Shear. Matt Kenseth. Here's your third place car, Steve Holzhausen. 4th to Kevin Sawinski. 5th to the 3 of John Lemke. Bringing it home third in an incredible run out of Bangor, Wisconsin, Steve Holzhausen. Steve, we're going to grab you real quick before we meet Joe Shear, but I'll tell you what, you can figure out how much a crew means to a race team as they got you back out there after that incident. You got to feel real pleased with a third place finish.
Yeah, I got to thank each and every one of them guys. I'll tell you what, when I was sitting up there looking at the car, I didn't think there was anything left of it. They did a super job, and the car didn't work as good at the end as it did to start with. But
the winner of Oktoberfest 100, Joe Shear. Joe, what a race you and Matt had. A little bit of black paint around your right front there and some rubbing out there. That's all about racing right there. You guys really put on a show.
Well, my car was running it was really fast in the corners. Matt had a little bit more power than I did, but Matt's a tough driver, and he don't give up easy. I didn't want to take him out or anything, but I just let him know I was there.
One of the toughest things to do is repeat at Oktoberfest. It's 2 in a row for you, Joe. You got to feel real good.
I'll tell you, it feels great. This car was working today. I don't think JAMA Racing Unit, this is a brand new engine today, and left-hander chassis. You just can't get any better. Hoosier tires are the greatest, too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Oktoberfest 100 winner, Joe Shear. We're going to get Joe Shear right over here if we can. Joe, before we do the pictures, we got to grab Joe Shear because we got to find our winner. Before we do the pictures, we got to get you back here. You are going to pick the ticket. I know you didn't like what happened with Steve, but that's part of racing, and you moved it up to the front. A good, solid year for the Coleman Racing 119 car.
Yeah, definitely. We hated to see Steve go out. You know, we had some problems early in the race, and we decided to come in and try to get the car working a little better because we knew we had no chance to beat him otherwise. And you know,
turn around here. They want to see it.
I gotta thank Gene from Coleman Racing Products. He put it together, a heck of a car and a crew. Our engines, Teasar Racing engines, Bilstein shocks. Everybody's done a super job this year. I can't say enough for them.
And Kevin, you've got one of the hardest working crews. We joke around a lot with those guys, but one of the hardest working crews on the ARTGO Challenge Series, and I know you can't put together a championship season without guys like this.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when we joined Gene last year, I brought a few of my guys, he brought a few of his guys, and they gelled real well. And, you know, we finished second last year, and we come in and led most of this year up until coming in today, and they did a heck of a job in the car all weekend.
And you just got to feel proud of the whole operation, Kevin.
Yeah, definitely. You just can't say enough.
I think at this time, don't you think, with a championship now, that we need one more wheelbarrow from Big John? One more wheelbarrow? Yeah, come on. Come on, we got the championship. We got to do it one more time. All the way to the finish line. Yeah, let's hear it for